$3 family dinners still possible? Yes, of course they are. There are still lots of $3 dinners that we can make that are delicious and nutritious. I'm making 2 recipes that use this short macaroni pasta. First, I'll be making a hearty dinner that can feed 4 people for about $3, and then I'll be using the leftover pasta to make a summer salad. My first dish is called pasta ichi. This is a dish that was made popular in central and southern Italy, and I was reading that it's served several different ways. It can be either brothy or creamy. Today, I'll be making a creamy version, but I think that you should play around with this recipe and make it the way that you think you'll like it best. And try to incorporate ingredients that you already have in your pantry. I spent less than $3 on my ingredients. However, I did have some dried chickpeas. I expect that you'll probably need 1 can of chickpeas for this. And if you're in other parts of the US, you might be slightly over $3. I have the pasta, 2 carrots, 2 tomatoes, and then some chickpeas. I also have 1 clove of garlic, but you can use garlic powder instead. And if you have any onions, you could chop some of those up and add that in as well. I'm going to be adding in some onion powder. I had to stop by the store to pick up 2 Roma tomatoes for this, and Aldi had them for half price at 49 cents per pound, which is a great deal. I've diced my carrots into small pieces, and I've also minced my garlic. Now I'm just going to cut up these tomatoes and throw these in the blender. I think what I'll do is I'll keep out a small amount to dice up to add into the mixture, just so that I get a little consistency in each bite. And then I'll use this tomato to help flavor the sauce. I'm just picking out the ends. I'm using fresh tomatoes because they're cheaper, but obviously if you have a can of tomatoes, you can just use that and it's going to work just fine. And in that case, I think I would still try to hold back some pieces of the tomato, just so you have some larger pieces into the mixture. But that's just me. I know what I like when it comes to pasta and how I like to eat things. I do like a little bit of interest with each bite. So that's what I'm going to do with this section of the tomato. I'm just going to dice it in small pieces, and then I'll add this into the pasta later, instead of adding it into the blender. Okay, so now we have all of the ingredients ready for the recipe. And this is the first time I'm using my new Dutch oven. My friend actually got this for me for Christmas, and I haven't used it yet. It's probably too large for this meal that I'm making, but I'm going to use it anyway. I love the color of this. If you have any onions, you could add in about a half cup of diced onions here, and I think that would be really good. I think I will add just a little bit more onion powder. So I've added a total of about a half of a teaspoon of onion powder. And I kind of just let that bay leaf sit on top, but I added it in with the spices because I didn't want to forget to add that in. And then I'm adding a small amount of water. And I'm just going to let these flavors blend together. So I'll let this simmer for about 10 minutes. I'm cooking this pasta in heavily salted water, and I'm just going to cook the entire box. Whatever I don't use in this recipe, I'll use to make a second meal with. I'm adding in my tomatoes now because I am hoping to have some pieces of the tomato in the end result. My pasta is almost finished. I'm going to remove this when it's still just a little bit firm because I want to continue cooking this in the pot. And I had some chickpeas out earlier, but because I'm going to have leftovers, I wanted to use the freshest chickpeas that I have. So I got these out of the freezer because you really don't want to leave chickpeas in the fridge too long. And I do think I'm going to have some leftovers that might take me a few days to eat. Adding the chickpeas in here is going to make this a much more nutritious meal. It's going to add lots of fiber. It's got calcium, iron, protein. There's lots of vitamins in chickpeas. And I'm mentioning that because it can be challenging to make nutritious meals when you only have a few dollars to spend on the meal, which is why I really like this meal. I guess technically we have a protein, a vegetable, and a fruit all in this dish because tomatoes are actually classified as a fruit. So we've got all of those vitamins from the carrots and tomatoes as well. And if you wanted to, you could just blend those all together to get a smooth consistency. But I do think I'm going to like it this way best. And if you notice, I'm adding about half of the chickpeas in. So if you're working with 1 can of chickpeas, then you're going to blend half of the chickpeas and then you're going to add the other half into the pot. I've been focusing a lot lately on how I feel after I eat a meal, especially my breakfast and my lunch, because I'm able to see how long I can go on that single meal without being hungry again. It's funny, I was talking to my son about this the other day. He was purchasing some Subway sandwiches and then taking it to work for his lunch. And he was telling me, he's like, I don't know what it is about Subway, but I can eat it and I'm hungry like an hour later. And I told him, your appetite is your body's way of telling you that you're not getting something that you need. So it wants you to eat more. And I found that too when I'm eating things that are not very nutritious, that then I just have a ravenous appetite. So I feel like if you're eating processed foods, obviously you're going to need to eat a lot more food than somebody that's eating whole foods just to get what it is your body needs. So again, that's one of the reasons why I like recipes like this. And here I'm adding in some of the starchy pasta water. I almost forgot to add that, but I wanted to add that in just to make sure that this does help it to cling to the pasta. And I do think I would like to mash up a few of these carrots. Maybe I should have thrown a few of these into the blender. They do become quite sweet when they're cooked, so they're going to help to sweeten the sauce a bit. I'm going to give it one last taste test and adjust any seasonings as necessary. I added a little more pepper. You know, this would be a great soup just like it is without even adding in any pasta. And I'm about ready to add in the pasta, so I'll remove the bay leaf now. adding some Italian parsley on top, but this is purely optional. Basically just doing it to give this a little bit of color. You know, when I was cooking this, I was wondering how this would be with butternut squash. For some reason, that just sounds really good to me, especially if you don't like carrots. This is really good. It's creamy. You really can't taste the chickpeas too much in the dish. I mean, it doesn't really feel like you're eating beans, if that makes any sense. It's kind of hard to describe, actually. It has a lot of flavor. I can't really taste any of the tomato chunks in here. Maybe I should have held those out until the very end. I did add a few dashes of the Louisiana hot sauce, and that gave it the balance and the acidity that I wanted with each bite. This dish was incredibly filling. I made a big pot of that, and I still had all of this pasta left over, so I was wondering what I should do with this. But then I was remembering that just last week I invested in some mayonnaise, which mayonnaise is not something I keep in my house year round because I just don't use it. I only buy it in the summer. So as many of you know, I do one big grocery haul at the beginning of the month, and then I do a smaller, like $10 for the rest of the week. So last week I got this, took up about half of my budget, but I know I wanted to have that on hand for sandwiches and things like pasta salads. I have a few of these bread and butter chips left, so I think I'll chop them up and add them to the mix. If you want, you could add in some hard-boiled eggs here to give this some more protein. You could also add in a small can of tuna. People generally use either dill pickles or sweet pickles in their macaroni salad, and I'm just using what I have on hand. But I think if I had both, I would probably go ahead and use a little of each. And I have some sweet onion that I'm going to add in, and I don't want to add too much because I don't want to have that strong oniony flavor. However, these are sweet onions, so I think that this amount will be fine. This tastes delicious, but I do think it needs some color and maybe a little more crunch as well. So I'm going to use a couple of these little mini peppers. I always find so many uses for these. I think they're going to make the macaroni salad look beautiful and also taste really good. I wanted this just a little bit creamier, so I added a little more mayonnaise to the mix. You might want to add a little additional salt here, but for me, this is perfect just the way it is. This tastes delicious. I haven't had this in so long, and I'm really not sure why not. You know, it's really a side dish. There's no nutrition in this. I was thinking, how could I make this more nutritious? And I tried this with some chickpeas in it, and it was really good. But I think that works best when you have the right ratio of chickpeas to macaroni. I like the texture of the macaroni salad, so I don't really want to mess that up. And I have some of the brine left over from the bread and butter chips, so I'm going to throw a couple of the Persian cucumbers in there and make some more bread and butter pickles from that. I usually only see my oldest son on the weekends because we have a different work schedule, but I left some of this on his shelf in the refrigerator, and he was telling me this weekend how much he loved this, and especially the kind of pasta that I used. I rarely use this ditalini. However, I do think it's perfect for this dish, and I also think it would be great in soups. I'm excited to try that next. By the way, did you notice that ditalini was sitting right next to salad macaroni? I looked it up and I actually think that there's no difference between those two. I think it's really just a marketing thing, but correct me if I'm wrong. That's it, guys. I hope you liked this week's video. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a great week. I'll see you Sunday, if not sooner, on my other channel.
Morning has broken, my windows are open. Wanna feel the wind blow through my hair. Which way do I follow? What happens tomorrow? I turn to you and hope you can guide the way.